Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we'll be discussing the Toronto Raptors season preview and predictions. If it's your first time here at the channel, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. What is your expectations and predictions for the Toronto Raptors? It's year 3 for Darko Rajakovic. And I'm going to be honest, guys, what is this roster? What is the direction? I mean, at least they're not the Sacramento Kings, but the Chicago Bulls and the Toronto Raptors are two teams that I don't know what's going on there. And if you're a fan of either team, let me know what you think of the roster construction. Now, the way that Toronto operates is that it's really hard for them to sign free agents. So they basically do all their free agency work and all their offseason like moves at the deadline typically. And that's why you saw the Brandon Ingram move. That was their move. They re-signed Jakob Poeltl. And in theory, Jakob Poeltl, Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, and Immanuel Quickley is the starting lineup. But I have to say that right there, you got 19.5 in Poeltl, you got 38.6 in Barnes, 38 million in Brandon Ingram, 27.7 in RJ Barrett, and Immanuel Quickley making 32.5. But I ain't a mathematician. I might be getting my PhD in data analytics. I'll tell you right now, somebody's got to go. Like, that's a lot of money. And you still, like, in the second unit, you still have Jamal Shed, Grady Dick, like, people need to understand how he could not hit the side of a barn the second half of the season. Ochai Abaji is someone that I think they could get real cheap long term. I like Colin Murray-Boyles and Mamu. They still have Garrett Temple. I don't know what to make of Jakob Poeltl. I actually like Jamison Battle as a shooter. Jonathan Magbo is a rebounding, undersized front court player. They have Olivier Sarr, David Roddy, Jared Roden, and AJ Lawson on Exhibit 10s, which means they'll probably get cut and then play for the Raptors 905 and get $85,300 bonuses if they spend 60 days on the G League affiliate on top of their G League salary, pushing them to north of six figures salaries. Now, Ulrich Chamanchi, Chucky Hepburn, Jesus, could not speak. Chucky Hepburn and Elijah Martin make their two ways. And yeah, also Chamanchi, is he still too green behind the ears? Like, is he the next Bruno Cabocolo? Like, is that what's going to happen right here, ladies and gentlemen? Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, comments, expectations, and predictions for the Raptors. This team, I know Vision 6'9" is gone. Masai Ujiri left. All right, this is Mr. Webster's team. The Raptors are betting on basically Vision 6'9". Like, Immanuel Quickley is 6'3". RJ Barrett's like 6'7". Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram, 6'9". I guess it's not Vision 6'9", but it's still like there's a lot of size, even bigger questions, especially about the half-court offense. I'd like to hear your opinions on that in the comment section. Subscribe if you like this content. Go check my workout at hoopshype.com and like. It'll help out the video a ton. So they finally get to see what Brandon Ingram looks like next to Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett, Immanuel Quickley, who was able to come in for the end of the season after missing most of it. Jakob Poeltl had one of the best, if not the best season of his career, and he was rewarded for it. He's a top 15 center. I think just raw talent-wise, on paper, this team should at least be 500, a play-in team. But also on paper, they're going to be a team that I don't know if they're going to be shooting enough three-point shots. And if they are, I don't know if they'll be hitting enough of them. And from four of those guys being in the starting lineup with Quickley, Barrett, Barnes, and Ingram all being ball-dominant players who are going to cramp the spacing on the floor. If Darko Rajakovic is an offensive wizard, he's going to unlock the spacing and the pace, and this is going to be a killer team in transition, I guess. And the East play-in is at least within reach. As I mentioned, Garrett Temple and Jamison Battle were brought back. Battle was converted to a standard deal. Mamu was brought from the Raptors, which I asked him when I was at Riga, Latvia for Eurobasket for 2 weeks, covering the tourney and then the knockout stage and then the final. And you got to go to practices and stuff. And I asked Mamu if like Poeltl was like a factor for him there. And he's like, yeah, we weren't really friends. I was like, okay. But they drafted Colin Murray-Boyles, number 9, even though a lot of people thought they were going to take Gay. I mean, Murray-Boyles works for what they need. And Chris Boucher, Colin Castleton were guys you saw leave, including Masai Ujiri, who I heard Masai Ujiri is going to go. I think it's Tannenbaum, or whoever was the previous owner of the Raptors is allegedly in the ownership group. That's probably going to be the Seattle Supersonics ownership group, and Ujiri is going to be the, the, I guess, the inaugural general manager president for that organization. Poeltl signed a 4-year, $104 million extension. Bobby Webster was made president, succeeding, being the successor to Masai Ujiri. And Brandon Ingram is going to be coming back from this ankle injury. Grady Dick had that knee injury. And last year was just a gap year. There was a bunch of injuries. They even had basically a mid-season reset that stalled whatever momentum there was. The defense fluctuated. The half-court offense lagged. There was just not enough shooting or shot creation. The bright spots were Scottie Barnes' growth, Quickley's on-ball command, Ochai Agbaji, and a bunch of the other guys, the role players looking like they could be something. And RJ Barrett showed some downhill pressure. I think they did their moves at the deadline. They went out and got a lot of defensive first players, and Murray-Boyles and Martin and Mamu. I think we mentioned it already. The big acquisition was Brandon Ingram being traded for at the deadline and extended, and he's going to be debuting. Look, philosophically, Toronto is doubling down on their size, their defense, and ball-dominant players. They're obviously thinking that Dick, Barrett, Barnes, everybody on this team is going to get better at shooting, and that is their plan, it seems, instead of having a bunch of three-point bombers brought in from free agency. Now, Malik Beasley's still out there, so that's possible. Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl is my assumption for the starting lineup. Their backup guards are Jamal Shed and Elijah Martin and Jamison Battle would be the guys I would say are guards. And then their wings and forwards are Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Colin Murray-Boyles, maybe a little bit of Jamison Battle, and then Gary Temple if things get bad. Their backup bigs are Sandro, Mamu, and then Jonathan Magbo. The rest of the guys are just garbage time players. So to me, I think if you're looking for a training camp battle, RJ Barrett, Ochai Agbaji, and Grady Dick are going to be probably competing for minutes. And RJ Barrett knows that if Ochai Agbaji and Grady Dick can outplay him, Ochai Agbaji would be like the closer, taking RJ Barrett's minutes in the fourth quarter, as he's a 3-and-D undersized stretch 4 who can play the 4 or the 3, while the score shooting is in Grady Dick. And obviously, if both of those guys can have a little bit more playmaking, take a little bit of the on-ball juice and size that Barrett gives the Raptors, it will make it a compelling case for the Raptors to then trade RJ Barrett and extend Ochai Agbaji and Grady Dick. Now, I do know that Grady Dick's entering year 3, Ochai Agbaji's entering year 4, so they could probably get Agbaji on a super cheap rookie deal extension. And the next thing is the backup 4-5 minutes. I think a lot of people are thinking it's going to be Mamu, who has the spacing, the rebounding, the playmaking ability, then Magbo being the motor. But I think Murray-Boyles being this defensive energy guy, especially if he flashes some three-point ability, I think could be a guy who gets more backup 4-5 minutes than you think and steals those minutes from Mamu and Magbo. But I wouldn't be surprised if head coach Darko Rajakovic, who is a mad scientist at times, expects or plans to have Scottie Barnes at the 5 for a small ball look where they want to run maybe Scottie Barnes, Ochai, or Colin Murray-Boyles next to Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes with RJ Barrett. Like, I really think there's a lineup where it's like Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Ochai, Scottie Barnes, and Brandon Ingram. Or instead of Ochai, it's Colin Murray-Boyles down the road. But next year, Grady Dick and Ochai, you take out Poeltl and Quickley, and you have those two, Ochai Agbaji and Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, and Scottie Barnes, potentially being this like death ball lineup. And I think they are going to probably decide which starter is going to play with the second unit. I don't know if that's going to be Brandon Ingram or Scottie Barnes. I think that's probably going to either be RJ Barrett or Immanuel Quickley. If the starting group starts to like need a breather and they need a guy to help be the shot creator in the second unit to help, get paint touches, put pressure on the rim and kick the ball out and create space for others. I think it's going to probably be RJ Barrett because they have so many wings and they don't really have a backup point guard, in my opinion. So you're kind of like you're in a juxtaposition with having to play Immanuel Quickley. I think they're going to have a few lineups. So the three lineups, I think the switch size one obviously is the Quickley, Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, Poeltl. I think the spacing / their pace lineup that we'll most likely see is a Mamu, Barnes, Ingram, Grady Dick, Quickley lineup. And then their defensive lineup, I wonder if it's going to be like Barnes, either Poeltl or Mogbo, Ingram, and maybe not Ingram, but Abaji and Barrett and Quickley. Maybe even take out Quickley for somebody like Jamal Shed. I think they have a lot of size and playmaking with Barnes, Ingram, Barrett. I like Immanuel Quickley. I just think he's more of a combo guard with point guard like skills, and I think on a championship team he would be your sixth man. Their rim protection and rebounding with Poeltl, Mamu, and Mogbo are great. I think they have a lot of defensive upside in Abaji and Murray-Boyles. But we are all aware that their three-point shooting is a concern. The half-court offense and tempo, especially if there's no spacing, is going to get bogged down. And the shot creation behind Immanuel Quickley, Brandon Ingram, and Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett is going to be tough if not one of them is in the second unit. And obviously, there's an injury risk with Grady Dick and Brandon Ingram, Immanuel Quickley, Scottie Barnes. There's a lot. With Darko Rajakovic, it's going to be a lot of driving kicks and dribble handoffs in their offense. They're going to leverage Scottie Barnes as a offensive hub. Brandon Ingram is going to run some mid-post and elbow sets, while Immanuel Quickley is going to be initiating tempo and in transition. I think they're going to emphasize on early offensive threes and empty corner pick and rolls to clear a side for either Brandon Ingram or Immanuel Quickley or RJ Barrett. Defensively, I think they're going to have some schemes where Poeltl's in drop coverage, and then they'll have a switchier look with Barnes, Murray-Boyles, and Mogbo. And this team is over the first apron and over the tax. They're about like $3 million over the first apron. So they'll probably move somebody to get under that. Now, that could be one of their like middle of the road contracts being Ochai Abaji if they don't extend him, or it could be them moving, as we mentioned earlier, an RJ Barrett for a smaller contract that is at most $10 million less, so that they have some room. And they're a team that has they control their draft picks, so I don't think that's something to worry. Colin Murray-Boyles, I don't think he's going to be someone who makes a huge impact this year, but I think someone in the second year could really break out. He's an explosive defensive first, 4 with strength, motor, and rebounding ability and defense. He's a guy that, to start off his career, is probably going to be a bench stopper who guards 3s, 4s, and some 5s. He's going to create pressure on the rim as a cutter, maybe hit the occasional open corner 3, and somebody who can run the pick and roll and make reads and plays out of the short roll. Elijah Martin's a two-way player who won a championship with Florida. He's a physical 2-guard, point of attack defender, and is really good at driving out a straight line. He's someone that, if he can hit corner 3s and navigate screens on defense, could get some minutes and steal some minutes from Jamal Shed, who last year was their steady table setter, who pressured the ball and organized the bench unit. He was someone that showed that he could be a really solid point guard. It's just his shot needs to carry over. Now, Scottie Barnes needs to be an all-NBA player. He needs to show that he can be a primary hub in a heliocentric offense that is surrounding him. He needs his three-point shot to be closer to 40%, while Immanuel Quickley is somebody who also needs to be a 20-point-per-game scorer who has to have a lot of three-point shots. And Grady Dick needs to stabilize his shot as a 40% shooter if he forces his way into closing minutes. And then, obviously, they need Brandon Ingram to be this on-ball, mid-range assassin who can bail them out in late shot clock situations and in the fourth, who can moonlight as the secondary playmaker. He needs to be someone who can play the 4 and the 3. He also needs to be more of a catch-and-shoot player who's going to have willingness to help space the floor and, obviously pass up drives in tighter spaces that would draw fouls for 3s. And if he buys into this quicker decision making and being more of a movement, relocating shooter, then this offense can have space to breathe. So how far can Toronto go? Their defense, their size will keep them competitive. Their talent will do too. And I think it all dictates on shooting. If Ochai, Mamu, Dick, Ingram, Barnes, and everybody help juice the three-point volume, and obviously the Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes duo has some synergy, I think their floor is a play in, which is realistic, and maybe even pushing for a 6 seed. Now, if that doesn't happen, it's going to be a really grindy offense that is below league average. And this is going to be a team that I don't know what their direction is going to be going into the offseason. So, with Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes, are they going to overlap? Who handles the ball in the fourth quarter? And they both like the elbow and the slot. Like, they like having touches there. And their 3 point rate, they need to be a top 15 3 point team. Their small ball unit will a Barnes Mamu lineup or a Barnes death ball lineup open up lanes. Will they have two different identities in the fourth quarter? Will they have an offensive look with Grady Dick and Mamu, maybe a defensive look with Ochai Abaji and Magbo? But I've said it before. I think this is a team that will be above 500, top 15 defense, maybe a top 10 defense, top 12 defense, best case scenario with a top 15 offense. If BI is healthy, all the guys grow and Grady Dick takes some, jumps that we expect. While worst case, if the shooting stalls and injury bug returns, it's going to be painful. But I think most likely they're in the play-in chase around 500. So thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, comment, like, and subscribe. What are your predictions, expectations, and thoughts for the Toronto Raptors this upcoming season? Let me know.